Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have an extremely special guest with us tonight. Rikki Rockett from Poison joins us coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome back to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. With me as always, my co-hostess Vanessa Hogle. And down in the chat room, our chat Shananigator Shana shaking everything up. We have a very special guest with us this evening. It's Rikki Rockett from Poison. Yes, from Poison. And he actually does legend tripping on the side. So it's really very cool. Check out his YouTube channel when you get the chance. Rikki Rockett Legend Tripping. Rikki, fantastic to have you on the show. Been watching your adventures, and it's really interesting what you are covering out there. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us okay, Rikki?
For some reason, I'm getting like two audio feeds. It's really weird.
That's interesting.
Do you have the show, the actual live broadcast up on your end?
You know what it is when I talk.
So he's got a loop.
Let me find out. Let me make sure that I don't.
Okay, we'll give Rikki a second here.
Maybe that's better.
Okay. Is that better now?
Can you hear us now?
Okay?
I think so.
Okay.
So it could have been, you could have been right. So that would definitely create a feedback loop without a doubt. So I'm very, very sorry about that. So I think we are square.
It happens.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
I've done it.
Yeah, we've all done it. A couple admin things real quick. Andrew and his Trucking Gnomes has thrown down a couple of super chats, a $20 super chat and a $5 super chat. He says every ghost has its thorns. So
yes, it does. Speaking of, real quick, and I promised Mike and Shana that I would not fangirl for just a moment.
Please do.
For just a moment, I would like to personally thank you on behalf of my entire family for the amazing music we listened to in June in Destin, Florida for our family reunion. Poison played most of the time, the whole time we were there. We are all huge fans. My stepfather is a professional musician, has been for, God, he's in his 70s, so 50 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, he's a drummer for Mickey Gilley. So we love y'all. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. The other thing, jumping right into your legend tripping, I have to say this. I did not know that you did this. I really didn't until Mike informed me. And shame on me for not knowing that, because I went to your channel and I started looking around and I was watching some of your videos. I have to commend you on a personal and on a human level for the way that you go after or try to find out the truth behind these stories. Your main thing was respect. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Not everybody does that. And the refreshing way that you address these situations and the thought and care that you put behind representing the families and the people involved in the stories was pretty special. I just had to.
Thank you. I mean, when somebody loses a loved one, you know what I mean? And it's that fresh. And I think even 40 years later, it's fresh when you're a mother. I mean, I can't imagine losing Lucy or Jude, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, I just really feel for these people. And so the true crime stuff, I kind of treat a little differently. And I don't like the true crime stuff as much. And the reason is because of that.
Yes.
There's such, I mean, these people you can touch, you can feel that. I mean, it's there. I mean, these murders really happened there. And so I try not to just do true crime. If the true crime doesn't have an element of legend to it, like even in the case of the Oklahoma, slangs, the Camp Scott murders, it's legendary how probably the murderer, the perpetrator, got off. I mean, it was literally through Indian folklore that he was able to convince a jury that he didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that was the hook for me. Otherwise, it's just, your forensic files. You know what I mean? But I wanted to say, when I started this channel, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I love cameras. I love motorcycles. I love traveling around on my motorcycle. And I love scary stuff. I always have. Our band happens to be a positive party band. But
right.
if it was up to me, the band probably would have been a little bit different. But like, I grew up like everybody else had Wilt Chamberlain on their walls and Terry Bradshaw, and I had Bela Lugosi. I mean,
yes,
you're a little into the darker stuff.
That's how I was, But but there was a little spot for Terry Bradshaw too. But so when I started this channel, I didn't know, I didn't really go after it like I'm going to do scary stuff, legend tripping, paranormal. I didn't do that. I just happened to keep finding little stories that I wanted to talk about, and people responded, and I went, this is kind of the cool, this is working, especially when I can do it off the motorcycle. If I can ride and explore these things on the bike, like that adds another layer to it that is just really super cool. So it just kind of has evolved like that. But it's like this weekend I'm doing, the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's a motorcycle ride. It's got nothing to do with legend tripping at all. And, I almost wish I had two channels, but it's hard enough just to keep one going. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to spread myself too thin and have all these topics all over the place, because that makes people crazy. It's like they don't know what they're coming to your channel to get. So I like to keep it to that topic. But once in a while, I take a little left turn and go deeply into a motorcycle thing, or maybe a little review. But 90% of it has become legend tripping.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if on your gentleman's ride you don't come across a legend.
Yeah, you never know.
I could. I've already thought of a few things that I could do in the process. There's some Hollywood stuff that I just found out about through my friend Lauren Parker, who you've seen in some of the videos. She contacted me, and we have something in Hollywood that's coming up, so we're going to do that pretty soon. We're just trying to get permission. So, respect, of course.
Of course.
Absolutely. So,
but anyway, I respect what you guys.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So looking through some of the comments on your videos, it seems like sometimes people get you a little bit confused with a paranormal investigator, a ghost hunter. So just for those that are watching right now, can you kind of talk about like the difference between what a paranormal investigator is and what a legend tripper is that you actually do?
Well, I mean, I feel like I wear a few hats, you know what I mean? I mean, number one being producing my own content. Okay, we all do that. So we know what that hat's like, and it's a heavy one. But the other part is sometimes I do have to be a little bit of a paranormal investigator. Otherwise, how am I going to know what I'm dealing with? But I try to go into it where it's more of a rite of passage. You know what I mean? It's like, you're scared to death if you go to this place and you stand on it at this time of night or whatever. And it's like, okay, bring it on. Let's go do it. You know what I mean? And then I kind of try to look at it and go, what is that is really the thing that's driving that legend? Is it a haunting? Is it just pure folklore? And a lot of this stuff is pure folklore, especially when it comes to bridges and things like that, and tunnels, those things have been for centuries, literally, in other parts of the world. There's all these things about bridges and tunnels and stuff like that.
Yeah, every state has one or two or maybe even 5 crybaby bridges.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma's got 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I'm sure. And guess what? Bridges do attract things. Sure. I mean, like Pasadena has a suicide bridge. There's been over 156 suicides off that bridge. And the only reason I haven't done anything on it, and I really do believe there's something to it, is because if I put suicide in anything on YouTube, you're flagged. You're done.
Yeah. You have to be really
they don't want to know
about
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but it's a story that should be told. I mean, it's terrible. So I've been talking to my MCN about it. Like, how do I navigate that?
I can tell you actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead and produce a video on it. Go ahead and do a full hour on it, if at all possible, and put it on Amazon Prime. Don't do YouTube. Put it on Amazon Prime. And
you're on Amazon. Are you guys on Amazon Prime?
I actually
Vanessa's doing one on the side. Yeah.
I just finished filming a docuseries in Ireland, and the first episode is going to have 8 to 10 episodes, and the first one is going to be on Amazon Prime middle to the end of October. And you can upload for free, and then you are paid per hour of view. So you actually will reap the benefits of the views on it a little differently than you do on YouTube, and you don't have the stigma, you don't have the issues like you would have with YouTube with something like that. So you could tell your story the way you want to, freely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only way you could really guise it under YouTube would be like do something like haunted bridges and try to guise it like that. But I mean, you kind of slid it in there with the Satan video that you just did.
Mm-hmm.
I did that one. I thought I'd get a lot of backlash. I was surprised that I didn't really too much. A couple people, but not much. And
I think it was done tastefully. I mean, really, it was.
Thank you. So, I mean, back to your question, I sort of feel like I'm an MC, okay? And my job is to get all the right talent to kind of put this idea together. And when I say the right talent, it could actually physically be somebody like Lauren, who is a paranormal investigator, or maybe it's just information that I've gathered from somebody that knows more about it than me. Or sometimes I'm the one that uncovers it. You know what I mean? So I like to put all those pieces and elements together and let the story kind of tell itself a little bit. And I think that's sort of my job as a legend tripper. Like, okay, everybody aboard, let's get on the bus. And here is a legend, and here's a legend, and this is what's behind this one, and that's what's behind that one. And this is all the information we have about it. And then somebody always is going to pop up and go, well, guess what? I know a little more about that. And that's what I'm always hoping for. When I start talking to people, they, anytime I've gone into like for example, in Santa Paula, it was great how many people jumped in and started to tell me about, I mean, look what happened at the hotel. I did not plan on meeting that couple.
Yeah.
I met them briefly downstairs. They were more than willing to talk about it. I was going to try to figure all this out on my own. And they gave me tons of information because they had been there like 4 or 5, 6 times they stayed there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They live in the area too. I mean, they live like 20 minutes or something from the hotel. So,
and yet they still stay there.
Yet they still stay there because they're so obsessed with it. And
wow.
So you're going to learn from somebody like that. But they're not professional paranormal investigators. They don't really know that much about it, quite frankly. I think that end of it I knew more about, but they knew the stories. They knew all the stories. And they had run around that hotel with another couple a bunch of times till 5 o'clock in the morning. And she had claimed that she had gotten these children jumping on the bed on her phone. But when we looked at that footage on the phone, I didn't see anything. Mm-hmm. But the chambermaid was just like, yeah, no, they were just here, like jumping on the bed. And I'm like, well, if my kids got in the room first, they would have jumped on the bed for sure. But,
well, hey, you know what? That's fun. Jumping on the bed. So you don't even have to be a kid to do that.
No.
But that brings up an interesting point, is when you're talking about myths and legends and different stories that have snowballed and gained momentum over years and then slowed down and then gained more momentum with different things added to them. The truth of the matter is it's some basis in fact.
Yes.
Some part of it is fact. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But it makes me wonder. We want to believe that it gets bigger and bigger based on people's fears or misconceptions. But what if it gets bigger and bigger because different people are affected differently? by their experience.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. There's that old saying, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So there's a lot of people that if they're a paranormal investigator, everything's going to look like a ghost. They're going to dig so hard to find that little piece of something. But if somebody's a naysayer, they're going to dig every bit they can to find something that will naysay the whole thing. So that's why I'm sort of coming up the middle going, okay, I don't want to have a preconceived notion about it, because I'm going to take those facts and I'm going to twist them if I do that. And so I try my hardest not to have prejudice one way or the other when I first go into it. Now, my goal is to walk away having some prejudice about it. What do I really feel about it now? Now, I know that a paranormal investigator does the same thing in many ways. Of course, you don't go into everything saying, well, it's got to be haunted. But some people are much better at their job than others. But I think that there's a huge amount of people that go into it looking, I'm going to find a ghost. I'm going to find a ghost. And any little sound I hear, if I hear the sounds that are between radio waves, and that's got to be a ghost trying to talk to me, instead of just going, you know, what really is the truth here? There was a show on TV called Destination Truth, and I thought that was pretty good. But I also felt like they were trying too hard to prove that something wasn't true, you know? And it's like I said in the Amityville thing, if that house isn't haunted, it sure as hell is now. And it's haunted with everything we've placed on it. I mean, you can't take that much energy of the whole damn world, literally saying that house is haunted, and it not have any energy in it anymore. Of course it has energy in it now. I mean, my God, and maybe that's what all this is people putting energy, you know, a little bit of energy getting caught, okay? A little bit of energy getting caught, that truth that you were talking about, and then people feeding on it and feeding on it and feeding on it. Is it true? Is it not true? It's got to be, you know. And because I think that the living can add to the afterlife's energy as well. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Mike, you've written entire books on that.
Yeah,
subject.
pretty much. I'm the writer. So, and in fact, in the Shadow Person book that I'm writing, I'm adding things in there like that. But it's interesting that you mentioned Amityville, kind of the way that you, the way that you kind of address these different topics, like you were saying, kind of coming up the middle, where, you know, you'll kind of give the pros and cons of the different perspectives. And you had mentioned in the Amityville one, the documentary by Ryan Katzenbach, which I thought was fantastic, The Shattered Hopes.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I've watched it several times, actually.
That's how Ryan and I became friends. I reached out to him after I saw it. I was like, dude, this is amazing.
Yeah, and a big part of that was Geraldines' testimony, but you had actually mentioned in your video that there is, you know, some controversy over who she actually was in her relationship with Ronnie, with Butch. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, because it's another kind of spin on the whole story, and you're willing to go there.
It keeps going. That story keeps freaking going. I swear to God, it has a million tentacles. That's what I'm saying. If it wasn't haunted before, it is now. Because now, I mean, on one hand, I've heard that she had got married to him after he was in prison. And, you know, so a lot of these high profile prisoners become celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
And women want to marry them. And that may be what happened here, because it doesn't show until like after he had been in prison for a while. Some of the documentation, but I have yet to see any true documentation of any marriage with her. You know what I mean? Right. So, and it's like, he's still alive. So how hard can this be? I mean,
yeah, just yes or no.
But,
you know,
yeah, I know. It's like,
but she had a lot of stories that, and you don't know if they're true, if she fabricated them, of what happened, even that night of the murders. She has some input into that. So it makes you wonder what really happened.
It does. And it's like Ryan and I tried to buy the house.
Did you?
A few years back. Yeah. Cool. And I still would like to have it. If I had it, it would be an Airbnb. I mean,
That's awesome.
I don't think I'm going to move back east and bring my kids and them go to school and go, yeah, I live in the Amityville house. You know, I'm not going to do that to them. But it would, you know, I would love to, in some safe way, and Ryan and I have talked about this, walk through that house with a 30-30 and open fire into ballistic jelly or even you know, something like some safe way, and have all kinds of sensors to hear if you can hear it outside, if you could hear it at the neighbor's house, what it sounds like from one room to the other, you know, recorders in different places, just to like seriously, because that seems to be the unanswered question. How did nobody move? I mean, you, of course, you're barely awake and you hear something at night. But usually when you hear something at night and you're in that state, it's usually something that's a rustling or something that's not. If somebody yells fire, you get your ass out of bed. Mm-hmm. And if somebody fires a gun, you get your ass out of bed. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why nobody got out of bed.
Yeah, everybody was still in bed. Even the neighbors. I mean, the other houses aren't that far away. They would hear that. You know, the movie tries to make out that there was a storm going on, but it wasn't. It was a clear night. So
well, I grew up in a hunting family. I've been shooting guns since I was 6, and I can tell you right now that with the houses as close as they were, if a gun like that was going off, 5 times? It was 5 times it was shot, correct?
6
times. If it went off 6 times, there is no way on a clear night somebody didn't hear it. There's no way.
No, I know. I mean, it's a 30-30 is a deer rifle essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I've fired them many times in the woods. If you want the best ricochet sound, that's one of the best ones. You know what I mean? It's a piercing sound, literally. It's not the biggest caliber, loudest gun out there, but it's loud. And I mean, in a house, you know, and it's like I said, the house square footage wise, if you include the Davenport out front and all that stuff, it's a big house. But the rooms and stuff aren't huge rooms.
Right.
They're really not. I mean, and I had a 3,700 square foot house. It was laid out similar at one time. I guarantee you, if I would have fired a gun anywhere in that house, anybody would have jumped. I mean, seriously. You know, I mean, a dog barks and you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're exactly right.
That's the single thing that stands out to me to be the weirdest thing. But there's more to it than to my story than that. Back when I was about 16, 17 years old, me and my buddy Ronnie, Ron Rhodes, and I hope he's watching this, he was in a band, and the drummer was him and his dad were scuba divers. They went to the Amityville River one weekend. And consequently, Ronnie and I decided we're just going to go to the Amityville house, right? And so we said, okay, let's do it. Let's just drive. It's 3.5 hours. Let's go. So we got ready. We went over to his house. He said, let me just grab a couple of things. I waited outside. 20 minutes later, he comes out and goes, I just found out the drummer died. He had drowned in the Amityville River.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. And so we're like, maybe we shouldn't go. Like, what the hell is this about? And this is something I didn't even talk about in my vlog at all. It's just so weird.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It's failed equipment, you know, is what happened. Crazy stuff. His name was Frank. Good drummer too. But and so me and my buddy Ronnie used to go all these places. He played in a different band, and we played clubs, and we'd say, okay, it's 2:00. Just finished the last set. Let's meet up and like go to Ray Myers Hollow and like go drive around and see what we can dig up, you know. And we would do this and come home at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning after ghost chasing. And we did this for the longest time. And we used to take people all these places and scare the living shit out of them. You know what I mean? But Ray Myers Hollow is another place. There was a book about it called Hex. And so if you ever get a chance, check that out. There was a movie too, but the movie was so I would like to revisit that without a doubt. And I'd have to bring my buddy Ronnie along.
Oh yeah, definitely got to do that. Hey, we have a $5 super chat from Intuition and Intention with a question here, and I know there's a lot of questions coming into the chat.
She's great.
We'll get to those questions. The question is: have you ever had an experience before starting your YouTube channel? What inspired you?
I did, and that what I just explained was one of them. But yeah, I used to. The thing is, my mom passed away a few years back, but we were very, very connected on a spiritual level, and we loved horror movies. We go to all kinds of horror movies, and we go look at scary places and all that kind of stuff. I've been poking around in this space for a very long time, and I get just enough stuff to want to keep looking. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's maybe true with most of us. I think if we all had like this huge horrible experience, we might never do it again. You know what I mean? Or if nothing ever happened, we probably wouldn't want to do it again. I think there's enough of it that we keep doing these things. I had one time where we did a seance with a bunch of kids, and there was this Buddha with like 6 arms. And during the seance, everybody jumped up, and I looked over, and this Buddha was moving all 6 arms.
Wow.
That's
that
pretty
is
interesting.
Absolutely true. And that was my first experience. And I'm like, 6 of us just saw that. We were just a bunch of kids being silly. I did this little movie. It was a short film called Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy is to set the font on a Ouija board, which is why Captain Howdy was the name that William Peter Blatty used in The Exorcist when he wrote The Exorcist. Yep. Her friend was Captain Howdy, which is a font set, which is crazy. He was brilliant. So I named my little thing. And the whole thing was I had written a series called Tales from the Talking Board, which is where a Ouija board is basically the background for a bunch of different stories, where the Ouija board doesn't really have any power, but everybody gives it power. And all these things surface, and then they move it on or throw it out, and somebody else finds it. And I did this little slice as one project to try to see what would happen. And I wound up with 6 different Ouija boards. And I'll put it to you this way: all of them are packed away right now. Okay. I don't have any. I mean,
all right.
Yeah. I would put those Ouija boards together and put the planchette down and close the door in a room, and the next day all the planchettes would be moved.
Oh wow, that's pretty wild.
And I was like, wow, okay. And I don't even, at that time I was like, I don't even believe in it. I believe that, you take your hands and do this, your fingers do this automatically. So it's like, okay, this is what's happening when you're putting your finger. I mean, this is the neurological explanation for Ouija board movement, okay? But when something just does it on its own, it's a whole nother level. Now, I thought about repeating this experiment on my legend tripping channel, and I probably will.
That would be pretty cool. Definitely.
I'm just afraid people are going to say, no, you moved it. But, I could have cameras on, and then they'd say I had magnets. I mean, look.
You're always going to have people that don't believe it.
It's always going to be those people.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, though, I'm actually not surprised that happened. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you might not fully believe in them. It might not be something, that wets your whistle, so to speak. That does not mean that you don't attract that type of activity to you. And I know that you do. So the fact that happened actually does not surprise me one bit. I think I really wish you would have taken a picture of where they landed, because there was a specific message for you in there. So I wish you would have done that. So if you do that again, be sure to don't worry about the video. If you put them in a door, put them in a room, shut the door, walk away, come back the next day, 3 days, a week later, when you open that door, take a picture. You need something solid to look at, because there was a very specific message left there for you.
Okay, you're right. This was happening while we were filming this, and I just wasn't thinking about that, because it was a made up story that I mean, I had made the whole thing up. So I was like, I wasn't doing YouTube channels or writing anything. And, you know, I do want to write some things too, because I you know, I am journaling things as I go along, but, you know,
Well, the inspiration came from somewhere, honey.
Yeah. But, you know, you're right. You know, but you're right. You bring some energy to the table. Like if you show up to a party with, I'm going to have a great time. Okay. Your chance of having a great time is much higher, as you know. So what you bring to the table definitely has an impact, which is why Poison always comes to the table with like, we're here to party, you know,
nothing but a good time, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's, to me, that's what a concert should be. But I mean, unless you know, your message is something else. But, you know, so, you know, if you do come and you're looking for darkness, you can find it.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question. But what's the weirdest thing that happened with you? I must know.
Which one of us?
Either.
Oh, my gosh. There's a lot of things. I mean, I talk all the time on this channel about the shadow person experience I had when I was a child, where it actually, you know, woke up in the middle of the night and was standing in the corner of my room. It actually came up to me, leaned over my bed, crossed my arms across my body, and then ran off down the hall. So it's one of the crazier experiences I've had. And Vanessa's had all kinds of stuff. She's a psychic medium. She channels stuff, and I can't even begin to explain that stuff. So.
Probably not the scariest, but the strangest. Real quick, first time in New Orleans, wanted to see. We're going to do the second one. Second time in New Orleans, I was going into Reverend Zombie's voodoo shop, just with some friends. No big deal, and I'd been in there plenty of times. Went in. Felt like a 200-pound man sat on my shoulders. So I walked out. The last thing I remember is putting my head against the wall. I woke up on my back, blocks away in front of Jacques Saint Germain's house. And the people that were with me said that I have this weird super spidey speed thing. When I channel, things take over. They couldn't catch me. They had to follow me. And I was trying to break into Jacques Saint Germain's house while they were screaming at me in my face and trying to get me to stop. And they said when I finally just figured out I couldn't get in, I laid down and put my knees up, and I'm right there in the middle of New Orleans. And I just look up at him. I'm like, mother trucker again. That's me. Yeah, that's holler at me sometime, hun. Trust me. I will trip your legend tripping.
Oh, good.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to do some things that are a little more personal to me. And there was something that happened when I was a kid, and I just found out that it was a real thing.
Oh.
Okay.
There is in Western Pennsylvania, there was a guy, there's no face, that had been horribly burned or something. And we saw him as a kid. And he actually followed my mom home from work several times, and she had to actually call the police. And I want to recreate the scene, and I want to go back to one of my friends who I'm still friends with. I mean, we were 11 years old probably when this happened. And I'm going to talk to him about it and see if he remembers it. Make sure I get his take on it too before I present it. So, yeah. I forget what it's no face is like no face Stan, or I can't think of what it is.
Interesting.
A fairly big, you know, legend, actually. I need to, you know, I'm also going to explore some of the, you know, you heard about the Bloody Mary thing, right?
Sure, of course, yeah.
Where you say in the mirror and stuff like that. Well, it's, you know, you were talking about earlier about how some things are, you know, most of the stuff is based in fact somewhere along the line.
Somewhere, there's a little nugget, yeah.
When they were building so many of those project houses in Chicago, literally, if you open the medicine cabinet, behind it was a very thin wall of drywall. If you punch through it, it would be the next apartment. Yeah. Okay. And people were climbing through and stealing other things, and a murder got committed through.
Oh, wow.
So there was born that legend. Okay. and they've since fixed a lot of those. But I mean, there's been a few legends that have built off of that one. But that's how this stuff gets rolling.
Oh,
but
yeah.
again, it's based in something, and what it's based in is almost kind of freakier in a way, if you think about it. You know,
Yes.
somebody climbing through your medicine cabinet and murdering you. I mean, you know, it's, you know, I don't have to say, you know, Bloody Mary 3 times for that to happen.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a place I would love to see you go. And it's actually, I'm not scared of anything. I'm scared of this place. I'm terrified of this place. But I would love to see.
So you want me to go?
Of course.
I do.
Throw Rikki right in there. This place is terrifying. Just do it. Yeah.
If I can ever get the balls, if I can ever get the brass cojones to do it, I will do it. Okay. But the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans. I went to New Orleans 10 times in 3 years, and I've only walked on the same side of the street once.
Wow.
Yes. That place absolutely terrifies me. I've been to Hellfire Club, Hellfire Caves, nothing. That place scared shitless.
There's a guy in New Orleans that does all the haunting tours.
Jonathan.
Lazier.
Oh, I don't know him. I know Jonathan. Rosier?
No, the one guy with the glass eye. Has long hair.
Oh, yes. Okay. I know
He's the best. I love that guy. I can't think of his first name. I had a brain fart about it a month ago, and then Big John reminded me of the name, and now I forgot it again. But Lazier is his last name. It's like a French name, or Cajun name, or whatever. But yeah, he's Rene Lazier.
Okay.
He's the best. He's the best guide. I put together a little group of people and just paid him privately. I said, take us everywhere. And we went to that mansion. We didn't go in, but I think a celebrity owned it for a while. Not mistaken.
What's Nicholas?
Like Nicolas Cage, yes.
He owned it for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
been a furniture store. It's been a school for girls. It's been many, many things, but just that upstairs. And of course, you know about New Orleans. And if you look around and you see any of the areas where windows are boarded up, that's where somebody has either leapt or been thrown to their death. I mean, it's all over New Orleans. You can't throw a stone and not hit someone who's dead.
Yeah, right. I mean, what other place does it rain and bodies come out of the ground? I mean,
True
Yeah,
story.
seriously.
Yeah.
True
I mean, that's
story.
how I know that. I think Marilyn Manson was there when that happened, and they found the bone, and that's what Twiggy had in his hair for a long time.
Oh.
Some
Oh,
human
no.
bone or something.
Wow.
Yeah. True
Oy.
story there. At least, well, maybe it's a true story. He says
You
it.
never know.
Seems legit.
It sounds about accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of questions down here in the chat. I do want to get to some of these. So Tanya Rogers is wondering, Rikki, do you plan to keep going with the channel if Poison goes on tour?
Oh, absolutely. That going on tour will provide me more opportunity to check things out in other states. The very first legend tripping thing I did was the Phantom Killer in Texarkana, Texas. And if you know about, where the couple went parking, and they ran out of gas, and the boyfriend went to get gas and he never returned, and she heard scratching on the roof, and she finally opened the door and he was hung up in a tree. You've heard that legend. And almost every town has a version of that. That actually started in Texarkana, Texas, with the Phantom Killer. That's and that's what got me going on this. And the people were great there, by the way. I thought they were going to be like really tight-lipped about when to talk about that. Like, the people in the hotel, everywhere I went, they're like, oh, no, you go down here. And I mean, everybody was so
Well, they
cool.
actually did like the filming of the, I can't remember if it's the original or the remake, but they actually did filming of one of the movies in Texarkana.
They did. Yeah. There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
There's a couple of movies that they did about it. Neither were even close to being accurate, but
of course not.
it was embellished, big time. But they do show the movie in the park where the first murder was committed every Halloween.
Oh, wow.
That's how cool they are about it.
Yeah, so they've really embraced
it. Yeah. So anybody in Texarkana that's watching, you guys are cool down there.
So
That's awesome.
Shauna is wondering what urban legend is on your bucket list to visit.
The Borley Rectory. I want to go there badly in England. That was where that very famous, full body apparition was coming down the steps. It's a very famous photo, and maybe even by Hans Holzer. I'm not sure. Hi, Alexandra. I don't know if you're watching.
She might be.
She's
We had her on
awesome.
last week.
She is so awesome.
Yeah, Alex is awesome.
She's great.
And I grew up reading her father's books, so and she and I became friends. I don't know, like maybe 10 years ago, and so it's always been wonderful with her.
Yeah, and she's got a show now.
Yeah, the Holter Files coming out at I guess it's the beginning of
October 3rd.
October, yeah. So it's
October
next week.
3rd. Yes, I can't wait, man. She's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
She is.
So, and Shauna's also throwing out there that you need to come with us to St. Omer's and the Swift Mansion Gore Orphanage areas. So, actually, you would be really interested in the Gore Orphanage legend for sure. So,
I would absolutely, I would. That would be cool. What state is that?
That's
though?
in Ohio, not
Okay.
far from Cleveland. So it's kind of my old stomping ground from a while back. But that was one where there's so much legend to that. We spent a lot of time uncovering what the actual truth behind that was, and it's just as tragic. But everything about the fire was incorrect, and there's just trying to dig up that truth to me is just fascinating. So,
Are you an Ohio boy?
I am originally from Ohio. I'm in Illinois now, but I always travel back to Ohio for work. So I'm actually going to be there tomorrow.
He would get a
Sorry.
kick out of Mineral Springs.
Oh, Mineral
Yes.
Springs Hotel, Alton, Illinois. Wonderfully haunted hotel. And there's so much going on. Yeah, I know. Wonderfully
It's
haunted.
huge.
Right? Huge, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I want to check out. Cropsey, the legend.
Oh.
I mean, that guy's still
Vanessa's done
alive,
Cropsey.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did?
no, I did a mini documentary on it. Holler at me, I'll fill you in. I don't want to do it on here.
Okay, all right.
It was a lot.
Were you on video? Did you release that? Was it a guy that you were with? Were you involved?
No,
with that
that wasn't me. Ours is a little bit different.
Okay.
It was it's very bad. Just message me. I friend requested you on Facebook, but just message me. You know where to find me. There's a lot I can fill in for you for when you go up there. A lot.
Okay. Can I watch the documentary?
Absolutely. It's just a little one because a lot went wrong with our footage, the way that it was configured. So we're actually going to go back and do it again. It's going to be me and two of the other girls that I was with, Julia Siracusa and Rachel and Gwen Clapper are going to go back and do that. But I'm amazed we made it back alive.
Wow.
We got that close to finding out who was actually responsible, that they were trying to lead us out into the middle of nowhere. We wouldn't have returned.
Wow. Well, hey, if you want to count me in, I'll come along.
You got it, honey.
I'll make sure you get back.
Yeah. It was bad. It was really bad. We were followed, radio shows. The hosts were threatened having us on. People called them and threatened them.
Yeah, they don't want the truth coming out about.
They don't want
really
the truth
happened
coming out. No.
Wow. Okay.
So Tom McNicholas down in the chat
forward.
wondering, Rikki, do you believe there is a connection with rock music and the paranormal?
Rock music
And the paranormal.
Sometimes. I think there's a connection with paranormal in all music. I don't think it's just rock music. We get blamed for Satanism.
Yeah. And I love that about your last video. You had some rock history in there, and I'm like, this is awesome. So,
well, you have to do that.
It was cool, yeah. No, when I was in
I'm
when I was in high school, we had a class that was actually called Poetry of Song, and basically it was a history of rock and roll class, which was totally awesome. It was an English class, but really it was a history of rock and roll class. So you throwing stuff in there in your last video, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I really appreciated that.
I think artists in general are a little more sensitive emotionally, and we're emotional. But I think the reason is that, if you're not in touch with all those feelings, you don't write from the heart the same way. If you're writing from here and not from here, you can tell. And sometimes you got to use both. But when you really write from the heart, and that comes from an emotional place, I think you produce the best music. And I think that, of course, there's going to be a paranormal connection with that, because that is definitely affects your emotions and your soul and spirit, and all that comes out. You wear it on your sleeve, and you put that music out there. So I do think there's a connection to it. So all kinds of music,
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, to me, music speaks to the soul. So having that type of connection, yeah, that makes absolute sense.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times have you heard, where you smell a perfume or a person's scent, or you hear a song and it reminds you of somebody, or you think you hear a song of somebody and you didn't really hear it, but later you find out that was a place that they loved, perhaps, or something. I mean, it's just another dimension. You know what I mean? We don't know why we love music. We think we do. Scientifically, we try to figure it out. Well, notes do this to the brain, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, at the end of the day, we're not sure why we love music so much.
Right.
We're not sure why we love pretty pictures so much,
Yeah, there are definitely times in which I'll listen to some music, and it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it will. I'll just be almost like instantly transported back to that place in time. It's happened with your music, where I've heard a song from Poison, and boom, all of a sudden I'm back in junior high or high school, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? So it's really interesting.
Well, look, all emotions, like love, for example, it's very difficult for science to really explain love. The way it's explained a lot of times is just to say that, hey, it's our way of connecting so that we procreate our species. Well, no, sex kind of does that. Not, but it stays together to keep the family intact. So that's part of evolution, but not so fast. I think that might have something to do with it, but there's something more at work than that. That is a very base explanation. It's a very basic, as complicated as it seems, it's very basic. It's not just evolutionary process that makes love, lest our brains think that there's love. Any more than I think there's necessarily, DNA that makes you have that God piece of your brain. There's another plane, there's another spiritual plane, in my opinion, that we connect to, and sometimes we're in it more, and sometimes we're out of it more. And a lot of things in our regular lives can connect us to it more or pull us back from it more. And it's really hard sometimes to get in touch with that. Some of us never do get that in touch with it. You know what I'm saying? I think people that can commit murder like nothing are very disconnected from that place. Very disconnected, I think it's less about evil and more about disconnection. They're not connected to their feelings, or, and of course people are just plain nuts too. But
right.
So it's all so fascinating, and it's like I said in the one thing, we rely on science to explain everything, but sometimes we don't have the tools yet to explain certain things. And I think our tools, if you're a paranormal investigator, and I'm not really a paranormal investigator, but I do have EMF meters and I do have things like that, but it's primitive tools. Think about it. I mean, this is like a hammer and a chisel, and
a lot of people think that
split atoms.
A lot of people think that when we use those devices, we're saying, oh, there's a ghost present. It's like, no, it just means there's some electricity present. It's not a ghost detector, But,
right.
Yeah.
And if there's no other
for that.
Right.
I'm sorry, that was a joke. I'm not a big fan of the apps. I'm not.
Oh God. Yeah, I know. I'd like to wring some of those people's necks that came up with that. Listen, there's really a ghost in my phone. It's like.
Oh no, I have a computer programming background, and just knowing how computer programs can be manipulated. I mean, you could make it say whatever you want. So I just don't trust them at all.
No, especially when the image of the ghost is like the sheet that they like in cartoons. when it shows up on that little image thing and it looks like a floating sheet, yeah, I'm not buying it. That's not what they look like when I can see them. So yeah, I'm not buying it.
It reminds me of the joke, how do you get rid of Bigfoot? Get out a camera.
Right.
True story.
At best, they'll come up blurry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But I mean, our cameras are better than ever. I mean, you know, we have 8K cameras now. Now, I'm not saying people are running around with 8K cameras ghost hunting, but pretty soon we're going to be running around with 6K cameras with the new Panasonic coming out and stuff like that. And I mean, we can detect, I mean, you put a low light 8K camera in a room, and if there's anything in that room, you're going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We need a red endorsement, okay? I'm just saying.
There we go.
Cameras for all of us.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Absolutely.
Please, red. I'd be happy to take one of your cameras.
Endorsements would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a red camera. I'll be like, here we go.
Yes.
I'll get it tattooed on my butt. Okay. I will.
I'll buy you one for that.
There you go.
I'm looking for number 5 already. I've only got 4. So number 5 can be red camera tattooed straight across my ass. I don't mind. I'll do it.
We'll do a show dedicated to that.
There you go. We'll call it Vanessa's red ass.
Matches the hair.
That's right.
Well, you know what they say about a redhead, right?
What?
You can sleep with a brunette, you can sleep with a blonde, but you never get any sleep with a redhead.
True story.
There you go.
I ain't bragging if it's true. I ain't bragging if it's true.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, we jumped off the cliff on that one.
The last question here from Zippy Davis. Since you started investigating, has anything happened that scared the crap out of you?
Yeah, I mean, the most real thing was that the lady in white. I mean, I got under that sycamore tree, and I mean, I literally felt like somebody, and I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I got guys trying to choke me all the time. This is what we do. We choke, we armbar, we leg lock, okay? And we try to suffocate each other. This is how we win. And now granted, I'm sure you know my history, you know, I had oral cancer. So this stuff doesn't always work perfectly.
Right.
But I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't jogging or eating something or drinking something. I mean, I'm just standing under the tree talking. All of a sudden, literally, it felt like a noose was around my neck. And this was during the day, cars going by, camera on. I mean, it was like it just felt like something went down my throat. And there was the whole legend about somebody being hung in that tree.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything to that legend is true, the one thing was somebody got hung in that tree. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
That's the true part of that legend. I'm sure of it.
That is absolutely terrifying when that happens too. I've been in your shoes. I've been in that situation, and I don't think people fully appreciate how much that affects you when you were made to feel what somebody else felt. And when I say made to feel it, I mean made to feel it. There's no getting away from it. And that changes you.
Yeah.
That changes you. There's no denying it.
No, I mean, it was almost like the person, and it was a girl, I believe, that just wanted to go like, you are in the right spot.
Yes.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
You were looking for it. Here it is. Here you go. Now you got the info. I mean, that's honest to God. That's what I'm not a whack job, you know, a little bit. I use a lute. But, you know, I mean, with stuff like that, I'm very clear about what I'm trying to do. And that was a freaky moment. It was really a freaky moment. Yeah. Like I said, it was during the day. Mm-hmm. Not nighttime, not when my brain's going to know.
It happen any time of day.
Yeah. I was trying to concentrate on making sure I was pulling focus on my camera. That's what I was thinking about. Mm-hmm. At that moment, I wasn't even thinking about the legend or, you know, anything like that. Right. So, you know, so I didn't conjure it.
Yeah, I tell you that some of those hanging tree legends are pretty interesting. There's a couple around in this area, and well, I didn't have a scary experience like you had. There was one near here where the tree has since been cut down, and we're trying to locate the specific area. We have an old photograph with the tree in it, so we're trying to track that down, and I see like this small mound right in the in this one little clearing, and so I'm approaching it through this tall grass, and I'm like, I think this is it. I step right on the mound, and all of a sudden my telephone goes off with this alarm, this chime that I've never used before. I have nothing set for it using that particular chime, and the type of chime that it was like you just hit the jackpot, that type of tone, that type of music. Yeah, it was like, this is nuts. I actually have that on video because I was taping at the time that was happening. So yeah, not a crazy choking experience like you, but still something letting us know that this is the spot since we are looking for it. And I think there are whether it's an energy or an entity or whatever out there, that when you start seeking for it, sometimes it'll say like, yeah, hi, here I am, this is the spot.
X marks the spot. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know what you're dealing with. So that's why I don't necessarily go poke the bear. I'm just like, I'm here. I'm open to it, but I'm not trying to force it. Now, a friend of mine who is a pretty well-known paranormal investigator. In fact, he was one of the consultants for Destination Truth. He ran a group called West Coast Paranormal Research Society. His name is Troy Tackett. And he got strangled and it was on YouTube. He's had trouble for 10 years now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It literally stopped him from, he wasn't afraid even after that happened. Dude's fearless. But yeah, him and his wife were doing this stuff for a long time. And he finally, he had to he couldn't eat. He got skinny. It was and they he went to UCLA. They did endoscopies, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him.
It's like it branded him. It branded him.
Yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't physically find what was going on. I think he's doing a lot better now, but
he was I have to tell you, and please pass this along to him just so he knows what happened. The fact that he got choked is one thing, but what he was actually feeling after the fact was what the person who had went through that had felt after the fact, and them being unable to sustain themselves, them being unable because they couldn't quite grasp what had actually happened. And so in their mind, in everything that was them, that is how they dealt with it. And they slowly but surely faded away. Their energy did. And that sounds like a very weird explanation, but that is what he made to feel.
He didn't believe that I don't think he believed that it was a ghost. I think he believed that it was demon infestation is what I think he thought it was.
Okay.
I don't think he was convinced that it was a ghost, but I don't know. But he's I would love to involve him in some stuff. The guy is really good. He knows what he's talking about.
Great.
And like I said, he's fearless. It's like, oh, there's this horrible house and you're sure to all this stuff to happen. Oh, come fine. Get me a cot. Let's go.
Jump right in.
He's good. Yeah.
That's what I'm doing for the rest of this week, actually. Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, that's exactly what I'm doing. Just shopping up in a couple of haunted locations out east and having at it. So, well, we're at the end of our hour, Rikki. Really appreciate you coming on, joining us, talking about some of your adventures. What's coming up next for you, and how can everybody find you?
Well, my YouTube channel, it's YouTube Rikki Rockett. So I'm pretty easy to find on YouTube and, Facebook and all that stuff. They are this whole idea is being pitched by a production company for a TV show.
Oh, cool.
But that's all I'm going to say because it's so Hollywood to say, whoa, we got interest.
Right.
I'm not going to say anything until something happens because it's BS until then. But hopefully it would work out. That'd be phenomenal to actually be able to travel the world and check this stuff out. I love it. It would be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully that'll work out. But I'm going to continue to do these videos. I have a few things on deck. Hollywood Wax Museum is going to be on deck. The Winchester house is on deck.
Nice.
I'm just going to do as many of them as I can. It takes a lot to produce each one because I got to research it. I got to talk on camera. I got to get B-roll. I got to go to the place, and then I have to edit it. And it's a lot involved. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So it's a lot. So it's hard to do it weekly. So, but I try, and then I have kids. So
right.
Well, now you just keep in mind, if that actually ends up working out for you, Redhead assistants are the best. Okay.
I would absolutely come to you for a lot of things. So.
Because that is my dream job. That's what I've been paying myself to do the past 3 years, traveling the world. Wow. And I got 4 books out of the deal and 2 documentaries so far that I've been paying for.
Wow, I want to read your books.
Sponsorship. So like I said, message me because I need to give you that other information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
We definitely love to show you around a few places, so I think you'd find them interesting. But Rikki, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And everybody, be sure to check out Rikki Rocket's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rikki Rockett, always a legend tripping. So it's awesome. So
thanks for having me. Honestly, it's my honor. All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night. Bye-bye. All right, everybody, that was Rikki Rockett. So really appreciate having him on the show. What is coming up next, since this is a double feature night, we're not going to do shout-outs right now. We are going to bring on Rob Guthrie, who's patiently been waiting on hold. We're going to end this live stream here for a couple minutes so that we can start a new stream and have it be Rob's own separate stream. So give us a few minutes. We'll be back. We'll switch out the artwork, all that fun stuff, and we'll be back here in just a few. Thanks again to Rikki Rockett.